Ladies and gentlemen, the Hurt Handbook presents the UFC Vegas 100 Recap. Welcome everybody, we've made it. It's the UFC Vegas 100 recap. It's about time we've gotten here after all the hype we've given it. And this has just been a great week for the channel, a big week. You know, we really built something with this, haven't we?
yeah, dude. I mean, where are you gonna find as much hype and anticipation for this event as you do here on the Hurt Handbook? So
we've truly covered it like no other.
Look at us. We were at a point just like everybody else where, dude, they got to get out of the Apex sooner rather than later. How much longer can you really keep going with this? Well, you can keep going till you get to UFC Vegas 100, and we get to dress up in suits to cover it and celebrate.
Well, the only thing that would be more appropriate,
dude, okay, so there were a few fights that did get pulled off this card, unfortunately.
Sadly. Garbrandt, Miles Johns on that one.
Yeah,
that one was sad for me.
We might as well be in COVID times again. We're dudes getting COVID and having to pull out because of it. But
yeah, well, at least the main and the co-main were entertaining.
It's still delivered, exactly. We still got a really exciting co-main and main event.
Yeah, there's a lot to hop into, and like you said, like we're wearing suits right now. I think the only thing that would be more appropriate for our attire is if we both had cigs in our mouths, because Carlos Prates beats Neil Magny in the first round with a beautiful, powerful glancing left hand, knocked Neil Magny out cold seemingly, and Prates gets through what really is his first big test at 170 with relative ease, and his striking looks like it's the real deal. And Neil Magny, we know that he's such a hard matchup for some people if you really aren't ready for that upper echelon, but Carlos Prates has proven that he is ready for that upper echelon. And what did you think of this fight?
So we talked about the the opening odds and stuff for this fight, and how Neil Magny might not be such a bad bet because of how much of a favorite underdog that he was coming into the fight as. So that didn't change when the fight got going. And it was at this point for Carlos Prates where this is the fight that is really gonna either send him into an echelon where he is getting truly meaningful fights, and his name is in the title picture is a legit name to watch out for, and if he couldn't pass this test, then you kind of just still give him I guess these Apex cards and just a lesser opponent, and hopefully he can just continue to put together knockout finishes. But he keeps stacking him, and like before this fight with his fight with Lee where he knocked him out on a pay-per-view, and now he's got the main event of the Apex of the Apex of the Apex, dude. Yeah, tell him. Let's go. It's a huge deal. These fighting nerds camp, they continue to just keep rising this year. So another just big victory for them. And Carlos Prates is, yeah. I mean, because who have you really seen do this to Neil Magny? I mean, Neil Magny is fought. So yeah, Neil Magny has
only the most elite fighters have done this to him. Neil Magny's a tough dude to get through, just because of that long, awkward style. He's so good in the clinch, and he doesn't really have like many weaknesses in any. Like he's good everywhere. He's very well rounded as an MMA fighter, but Prates shows that that doesn't matter to him. I mean, the shot that he hit him with, it's a glancing shot, and he knocked him out cold. Like no one does that.
Speed, precision, technique, power, like. He's got all of it behind those hands. So, I mean, when the fact that the fight did go by so fast, and you can talk about what's next for him, and even who he called out to fight with Jack Dale De La Maddalena would be absolute fireworks. It could main event another Apex card for sure. Those two would put a beating on each other, I think.
That
But
fight would feed families, dude.
yeah,
I
I mean,
love
what
that
we're
fight.
seeing from Carlos Prates right now is that he's not looking to it's just a guy that definitely he's not looking to go to the judges at all. He doesn't even think about it. He's got a really I feel like unique pace to him, even though we haven't seen him on a 5 round fight obviously yet, but
Well, technically we have. We just haven't seen him go as far into those five
true,
rounds.
true. That is true. Yeah, I didn't even think of it like that. But hey, that's a credit to him for sure. I mean,
It's like Hamzat. Hey, if nobody can get you there, what difference does it make,
yeah,
right?
yeah,
And he's smart too because he knows where he's probably going to be in the rankings on that, the fringes of the top 15 because Neil Magny was number 15 himself and also said that Jeff Neal would be a fight that would interest him and Jeff Neal's on the outer part of the top 10. So that's not a bad matchup either. Like he's very smart and I think that some of that has to be attributed to how good his gym is too, fighting nerds once again doing it out there at the Apex and we're really seeing something special coming out from this gym, and I'm so excited to see him
yeah.
continue at welterweight.
I think since because of Neil Magny's sort of unorthodox style and his range, he's I think the thing what kind of got him caught here was just trying to keep Carlos Prates away from him, I guess. In which case, Carlos Prates is like pretty much walking him down, taking the center of the cage, and I mean Neil Magny's now his back is up against the fence instead of kind of I guess getting to a more like dirty boxing fight with Carlos Prates, which is obviously a lot easier said than done, but. I
And
mean,
even in that situation, Prates is such a good striker
yeah,
that
he's
it might
so
not
good
even
at
work.
finding those openings to tag you, and then it all just it builds, and then so he gets he'll line up all these shots, do damage that way, and then
Yeah.
it sets up the knockout punch. So I mean, it's the kind of fighter that no one can complain with watching every single time he steps in there. So
Definitely.
they got a star on their hands.
Oh, they really do, man. And even outside of the cage with the whole cigarette stuff, and then also obviously the fighting nerds and their whole deal, you got a guy who's so exciting to watch. I mean, it's already 4 knockouts this year, which is just crazy to think about, honestly. And like this one was against a guy who's fought some of the best. So I'm definitely intrigued to see what happens moving forward for Prates, but I'm also intrigued about what's going to be going on for the guy who won the co-main event, and that is Renier de Ridder wins his UFC debut against Gerald Meerschaert via third round arm triangle. And this was a pretty big deal. I mean, people didn't really talk as much about it as I thought they would going in, but this dude was the double champ at one championship at one point, middleweight and light heavyweight. And that was only a few years ago, really, when he was at that point. And he gets into the UFC, fights Gerald Meerschaert, who's obviously a very tough test for anybody. He's just tough dude, really good grappler. And, for those who don't know, RDR, his jiu-jitsu is really his biggest strength. And he did show that in this fight by really out-grappling Gerald Meerschaert in almost every exchange on the ground. But then even on the feet, RDR's jab was just incredible. You all good there?
There you go. Sorry.
That's Yad Chatri calling you, right? From
Dude,
one.
it's actually a call from Las. So it's actually from the Apex. It's from a call from Las Vegas.
They heard about all the hype we're giving the event.
Yeah.
That's for sure. And they're like, "Yo, we want you guys to come and beat work for us." No, I mean that'd be great. Anyway, but RDR though on the ground, like I said, he looked great against Gerald Meerschaert, winning basically every exchange, and then on the feet, his jab was outstanding, and his striking. While it's not the most polished in the world, but considering most people in MMA, at least in my opinion, they seem to neglect the jab nowadays. It's cool to see a guy who has a good one. And this dude has been the best in other organizations, so there's no reason to really say that there should be a limit on him in the UFC. And I know he's in his mid-30s at this point, so he's going to be getting up there soon, but we've seen people like Alex Pereira prove that age doesn't really matter, and I'm definitely curious to see what happens in his next few fights,
Well, perhaps he's bringing the jab. Um, Now that he is in the UFC, and that probably over with one, and the Asian rule set and all that, and just kind of, I guess, what one looks for and all. And I mean, he's fighting straight up grappling matches over there and won championship too. So probably a lot more grappling oriented over there. And I think now he brings the jab over. He fight a lot more high low, set you up high, and then like we saw in this fight, just go for those takedowns. He went for a lot of takedowns in this fight, and you definitely wanted to see him get the finish. It was really good to see that he was able to towards the end of the fight.
And it needs to be said against a guy like Gerald Meerschaert how difficult that is, especially on the ground. He's such a tough dude. I mean, remember that fight with Edmund Shabazian earlier this year? I mean, it's so hard to get this dude out of there. And the fact that RDR kind of dominated this fight in a lot of ways, and then, the submission finally presented himself, and then he took it right away. And so he does deserve a lot of credit for that. I mean, caliber of an opponent is a big deal, and Gerald Meerschaert has been in the UFC for a very long time, and deservedly so. And it's good to see this guy come in from another organization and look that good, because now you have a lot of options. Like, I think you could immediately put him into a fight with someone from the top 15 just because he's earned that already in other organizations. And you come in and you finish a guy like Gerald Meerschaert, that deserves some respect, especially from the UFC as a company. So.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, at 185 too, to be honest. I think these guys are tough to get down, but you don't see too many of them getting finishes through submission. So I think he brings that unique kind of blend where, once again, if you were talking about how maybe he's not the most polished striker, but I mean, if he can keep setting you, showing you one thing on the feet, and then he goes for a sudden takedown, and then gets you down to the ground, then I think he brings something to the middleweight division that a lot of guys are gonna be wary of and really not even want to fight him, like not give him that sort of, I guess, props and credit, but.
Or it could be the inverse. Maybe people will want to fight him and say, "Oh, this dude's been fighting
Yeah,
cans." Like,
I
which
hope I
isn't
hope
true,
it's
but
yeah, I hope it's that way.
yeah,
Um,
it'd be a more exciting thing for the fans. That's for sure.
yeah, because otherwise, I think this guy is gone. I think he's a guy who he can fight all 5 rounds and not really break, I guess, too much of a sweat, and he can finish fights like you just saw. So
Yeah,
yeah,
and he's not gonna have any problem getting fights in the UFC. And he talked about how difficult it was to get fights in one championship. And dude, Renier de Ritter, he had some stuff to say during fight week about one, and to use his own quote, "If you're thinking of signing with one championship, don't." And he talked about how he had to beg for fights in his final years there, which put a lot of stress on him and his family. I mean, I literally was on Tapology before. He had one MMA fight for them in 2024. He had a grappling match in 2023, no MMA fights. And then he had one MMA fight in 2022. And like I said earlier in the show, this dude was their double champ at one point. And so the fact that you have this guy having to beg for fights is not a good look. And it seems like one has been in the news for stuff like this with fighters a lot lately. I mean, you had that whole story with Mikey Musumeci getting stripped of his title from 135 from trying to save a card because the fight got changed that week from 170 to 135 when his opponent fell out, and he still tried to cut that weight and didn't make it because he got medically forced to stop, and then they strip him because of that when he was trying to save your event in the first place. And then even before that, Sage Northcutt in the beginning of the year was talking about how One Championship lied publicly about why he pulled out of a certain fight matchup, and then that led to his eventual release, which was done in a very low-key way. So One Championship has not been in the news for many good things lately, which sucks because in terms of the fights, they do have a pretty good organization. I mean, there's no promotion out there that has every sort of martial art kind of like One does, and I think that that's something that's really cool about One Championship. But they need to step it up in this aspect, it seems like, right now, because you never heard stuff like this years ago. I mean, when Ben Askren was there, and like even when RDR was champ there, like One Championship, that was a place where people really were thinking of going at certain points in their careers. I mean, Eddie Alvarez ended up going there after the UFC. DJ ended his career there. Mighty Mouse, he never really had much of a problem. So
I
there are good
mean,
things, but
I feel like they're able to. I think they can, but I guess maybe they kind of stop themselves from things like this. But they can. I think they can build stars too. Like
yeah.
Raw Tang, for instance.
I mean, even Mikey
Super
Musumeci and
Mikey, yeah.
The Rotolo brothers in grappling as well.
Super leg, yeah.
It's, they have people in their promotion in all martial arts that they can build, but they can't like throw people on the back burner in the way that they've seemed to with certain people. I mean, Sage Northcutt, I know that was a big deal when he signed with one, and then that didn't really go the way that he expected it, and obviously taking a couple of rough losses. There was that one, remember, where he broke like all those bones in his face when he got knocked out, and I would imagine that one figured they were going to be able to build him more, but then when he lost a couple fights, they're like, put him to the sideline. Like that, I just don't like that, honestly. And RDR talking about it kind of keeps that narrative moving forward.
Yeah. I guess at the end of the day, it's still a business, still these guys' profession, and I guess things behind closed doors just don't really, get met eye to eye, and then so it leads to stuff like this where now DeRitter gets a different opportunity and he's got a bigger platform now here at UFC, so he can feel the need to speak out and stuff for other fighters and
yeah, he said it was something that he felt necessary to do.
Yeah, because we don't have a fighter union and stuff, and so when a guy is able to give a different perspective from his career and what he's seen.
Yeah, because there's not many fighters who have been at multiple huge promotions like one in the UFC. I mean, so that hear their experiences with other people out there, it kind of gives fighters more to go on. Like there's other people who have done it. Like Rory McDonald, obviously he was in the UFC, PFL, Bellator. So like that's another guy, but you don't really see too many people jumping around. That we actually have seen it a little more these past few years with the emergence of the PFL. You don't really see too many people going to one at this point, which is maybe this is why. But besides that, though, today is Veterans Day here in America, so I wanted to say Happy Veterans Day to any veterans who may be watching us on the channel. We definitely appreciate you in more ways than one, obviously for watching us, but also for watching over us by giving us your service to this country. And I know you have another shout out on this one that we want to give, so I'll let you get into that too.
Yeah, so one of my training partners, someone I've gotten to know a lot more and stuff since I started training at the gym with the Shane's Cash Money team. Travis Leal, Lobo, which stands for Wolf in Spanish. He got his first ever, his very first amateur fight under Muay Thai, a Muay Thai fight, which is interesting because in our gym we train more, we're more kickboxing oriented. Like we like to work on those footwork fundamentals and all that, and man, that kid can kick for sure. But under RFC, which is a promotion Shane fought for as well, he got his first win in his first fight, unanimous decision through 3 rounds, and yeah, man, just congrats to Trav. Hopefully, you're gonna see him later today, and it's just been a lot of fun, working with him and stuff, and just seeing that growth, and one of these days I think we're definitely gonna get him here in this seat and talk to him a little bit and stuff. The kid's still super young, freaking 18 years old, and he's already getting his hand raised and up for a promotion. So
Yeah.
it's cool to see. It's really cool to see that happen. So yeah, RFC and the Newburgh Armory. We were there for one of
Shane fight.
Yep.
Yeah,
And,
definitely go watch that doc if you haven't.
It's a pretty cool venue for sure. So
yeah, for sure.
yeah, it was just awesome to see Travis get the job done and bring home the dub. So hell yeah, Trav, good job. Like I said, get him in the seat one day and talk to him soon enough. So that was pretty dope to see.
Yeah, definitely. Congrats to Travis from me. Obviously, I haven't met you yet, man, but I'm sure I will very soon when we get you on the pod. That'll be fun too.
Yeah, man. Yeah, I mean, to like about the fight itself too, like a little bit, like I said, Muay Thai rules. So I mean, there was a lot more clinching and knees and stuff than he was probably used to, but he weathered it all. I mean, the kid's he's a tough SOB, that's for sure. They don't build him a whole lot like Travis anymore. So yeah, man. I think he's just gonna keep getting better. He's been training with Shane for a little while now, so it was cool to see it culminate into that moment this past Saturday. So hell yeah, let's keep it going for sure.
Cash money team. Let's go. I like it. So that's all for this show. Next week we got some big fights at UFC 309. Also on Friday, right? It's this Friday that Tyson fights Jake Paul as well.
Oh, is it?
Yeah, so we right.
Oh yeah,
I believe so. I just
Netflix.
remember. Yeah, let me look. Just double check that because that might be something else we'll cover. Yeah, November 15th, this Friday. So yeah, this Friday is Jake Paul versus Mike Tyson on Netflix. That should be interesting. Also, big thing for Netflix to have a big boxing match on live on their platform. But then, even more importantly, in my opinion, on Saturday, UFC 309 is upon us. Finally, we get the heavyweight championship fight between John Jones and Stipe Miocic. Will the winner of it fight Tom Aspinall? Yet to be seen. Looks unlikely, but who knows what's really going on behind closed doors. Then we got Charles Oliveira versus Michael Chandler 2. Bo Nickel versus Paul Craig. The prelims look really good too on this card. The whole undercard, honestly, is phenomenal. And that'll be happening from MSG, Madison Square Garden. Very close to us, which should be cool. And yeah, definitely stay tuned next week for the big episode of THH that we'll have to cover all the action from that card and from the Jake Paul with Mike Tyson card. So until then.
Feel just like a superstar. Doing all these drugs, I don't think I'm gonna see tomorrow. Living fast, brand new dash up in a foreign car. It's the type of shit that you be doing when you going hard.